something about what you have faced with reference to reproducibility and what you have done to address it?
Good evening, everyone, and very happy to connect back. Happy to see the regulars. Thank you very much, Nitin, and let me jump into the answer. With respect to reproducibility, yesterday we were discussing briefly about this. I just wanted to focus more on this point because this is very important. Now, when we talk about data science or data science job, few years back, I would rather say, personally, I would say pre-COVID era and post-COVID era. Pre-COVID era, as a data scientist, you are expected to build machine learning models, do analytics, that is descriptive analytics, predictive analytics models, do the hyperparameter tuning and give the best model to the development. Okay, so that's the general flow. And in order to develop this, as a data scientist, we used to have the historical data and we split the data into train, test, or we also split this into three forms: train, validation, and test. And we try to run through different models regressively, iteratively. We would try to find out the best model by experimenting. Once the best model is ready, we try to give it to the end user in whatever the form. We'll get into that subject. I'll talk about that briefly. But once the solution, the final solution, is handed over to the customer, the expectation is that, this is important, the expectation is that the solution should work in future. That means when the new data comes in, the expectation is that the model has to work just like how it has probably worked on training instance, training data, and then testing instance, right? And that is your on test data. But the problem is we don't know what kind of new data might come in, right? So we have to try and ensure that the model is also verified for getting similar results, quote unquote. The conditions have to be similar. So we basically put all these details up front. But is the model working similar if I give some new data to the model? So to verify this, we basically split the data and then gather the stats of each and every data set that we have. Like training data set, we do EDA, we gather all the stats. We have validation data set, we gather all the EDA, the stats related to that. Then test data set. And we may also have new data as well for further round of review and taking the feedback from the model. So all these four data partitions or data sets that we have should have similar characteristics. This is the condition, quote unquote condition, that we'll have to look at. And if we pass this data to the model, then the model should perform very, very identical on these four different data types, data sets. This is something we will have to verify so that we can generalize and say that the model is going to work at a specific level of metrics or performance, you can say, even if there is a new data that is coming in. Again, quote unquote, the conditions have to be similar for the new data as well, which is very identical to the existing data sets that we have. Right? So we try to put those restrictions and then we generalize the model. So this is something that we check for reproducibility of the model's performance. Nitin.
Thank you so much for the detailed answer. Bharani, I have a slightly different take on this. So when I say different take, a different question altogether. So Bharat has explained the necessity of reproducibility to ensure that we are in line with the future data. All that is very much clear. So does it mean that the efforts that will go in for the future data points, what we engage the customer for ensuring you have these quarterly maintenance, half-yearly maintenance contracts where we'll update their system, that efforts will be reduced considerably because we have ensured reproducibility, or that effort still will be there? If that effort is still there, what is reproducibility doing? I'm just trying to understand that.
Sure, Nathan. Absolutely. So, there are two parts to your question. One is what with respect to the new data? With respect to the new data, as in how you get it, you will have to follow all the data pre-processing steps which you have applied while you are training the data. Before you supply data to your machine learning model, training data, you would have done certain data pre-processing techniques. The same techniques should be applied on the future data also before you supply them to your machine learning algorithm. That's one part of the question, Nitin, that you have asked. Another part is, can probably I give a different perspective with respect to reproducibility? Okay, reproducibility means when you tell to the customer that, dear customer, do you know what? I've got an accuracy of 92%. What if your customer asks you to show that result once again, that you're getting an accuracy of 92, 93, whatever you claim? And what if customer says that, good, that you have tried it on your environment, on your server. Would you like to try it on my server and then show me the results? If you did not document what is the version of Python that you were using, what were the versions of libraries that you were using, what kind of data set you were using, I mean, what were the data points within that data? If you don't have exactly the same setup, you might fail to reproduce the results on the client environment or the customer compute environment infrastructure. Also, you need to document the operating system, the version of that. What are the other softwares which are involved alongside building your model? You'll also have to document the details such as your compute. What is the processing speed, right? What was a processor? How much amount of RAM you had? All that is needed because if you want to replicate and reproduce the results on the client environment or client infrastructure, all these things should be recorded. And this is another aspect of reproducibility. When someone says, hey, show me the exact results, you claim that accuracy would be 92%, and you claim that the predictions will happen within 3 milliseconds. Show me, prove it. For that, your production environment, your hyperparameters, the algorithms that you were using, the data set on which you have trained your model, all of those things you should have recorded, right? And another very important thing is building the model and giving it to the customer does not mean that you got high accuracy and you're able to give the prediction results faster. It also includes a lot of aspects such as model compression. What if the customer says that you will have to deploy the model on our CCTV, on the video IoT device? In that case, if you end up building some kind of a deep learning model, it would be very large in size. It could be probably 20 MB, 30 MB file. And if you want to deploy such 20, 30 MB file on your mobile application or some kind of IoT device or CCTV camera, etc., then it would not fit in. Even if it fits in, the performance would be very slow. To address that, people use model compression techniques. They compress the model significantly, make the size smaller, so as to deploy that on the mobile application or on some edge computing device such as IoT device, etc. All these things, when you do it as part of your model building, and when you're satisfied with the results, when you feel that, yep, we are good now, we have evaluated the model against the success criteria, business, economic, and machine learning, and we are good, then customer would certainly like you to replicate the results in their environment. For that purpose, we need to record all the details of the model and the data and compute, etc., so that you might reproduce the result. So that's why every experiment should be documented. And there are a lot of AutoML tools which are available, especially the commercial versions like SageMaker, Autopilot, etc., which would automatically record all of these things so that you don't have an additional headache of, remembering what versions, what operating system, what Python version, what libraries versions were used, etc. You need not worry about all of that. That is automatically taken care of. But it costs. One of our student on YouTube channel is asking this question on, we have AutoML models. Why do I need to do it manually? It's cost at the end of the day. Right? Automatically you can do that, but it's going to cost you a lot. Would you be willing to spend that money? Is a question that you need to ask, right? But yep, AutoML tools are picking up fast in the market. Yep, thank you, Nitin, and sorry for a very lengthy explanation there.
Yeah, perfectly understandable. That is the price I have to pay for interviewing the experts. It is not an interview where I am trying to test your, trying to test what all you don't know. It is trying to figure out, that is what generally happens in an interview, right? When you go there. Another off-track tip that I'd like to give you. So when you go for an interview, participants, if you get stuck up with something that the interviewer knows you don't know, you can be sure that if he's a slightly even slightly sadistic person, is going to go around and around and try to find out how much of it you don't know. All right. So here with Sharath and Bharani, it is difficult for me to find that small loophole where I'll have them stumped. It is not possible. But yeah, the objective here is for you to learn the answers and not for me to show you how they fumble when they don't know the answers. I'm sure you have a lot of experience. Another thing I'd like to quickly add before I move on with my experiences, your answers will dictate, most of the times, your answers will dictate the next question. So if you have given a very detailed answer, you feel very excited about it and you've given a very detailed answer, trust me, the interviewer is not going to ask you anything on that topic, on that machine learning algorithm totally. He or she knows that this fellow knows perfectly about it. So if you'll have to be a little bit of an actor also in that. You'll have to show a little less enthusiasm towards topics that you know perfectly well, and probably, fake a little bit of enthusiasm for things that you don't know. These are, again, this has to be coupled with the knowledge. You cannot simply fake your way through it. Your knowledge is 80-85%. That 5-10%, whatever is there, is what I meant this. Please do not, take this as the main study point of it. These are just the additional aspects. Thank you so much, Bharani and Sharath.